All right, folks, this is Bob Tripathi with Digital Sparx Marketing. And as you guys know, I love to bring some expert thought leaders in the digital marketing industry. And today I have a great guest, and his name is Daniel. Daniel, welcome.
Thank you so much, Bob. Thrilled to talk to you.
Yeah, great. You know, Dan, what happened is I actually watched Daniel's live presentation at one of the conferences, and there are very few sessions in a conference I actually sit and attend and sit through the whole session. Probably ADD, entrepreneur ADD, I don't know, whatever you call it, right? But Daniel, your presentation was one of them, so I thought I'll just reach out and have you back and talk a little bit about it. So I know you are at Reich, and you're the senior content marketing manager there, but and you're from the Bay Area. So can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. So my name is Daniel Codella. Everybody calls me Danny, though. And like you said, I do content marketing for Reich. In case you haven't heard of Reich, Reich is a collaborative project management software. We help teams do more with less and collaborate better. Before Reich, I actually led marketing for a design agency called Zerb. And if you haven't heard of Zerb, you've definitely used products that they've designed. Their work probably touches 1 billion people every day. It's incredible. And so that's where I actually started to learn about these psychological triggers. Product designers are so in tune with the way we as humans take in information and ergonomics and all these other things. And so that really kind of blew my mind during my time there. And so that's kind of taking the best of those insights that I learned from Zerb and kind of carrying over to what I'm doing at Reich and with other clients.
Yeah, and as I said, I've used Reich, and we will be for our teams great tool, especially for marketing. But yeah, I mean your presentation around the 7 psychological triggers. Somebody was interviewing me at a conference a couple weeks back, and they asked me this question: how is B2B different than B2C? Which is a classic question, right?
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that plays a lot, especially in the B2B marketing, is the psychological triggers, because you are not able to close a deal so fast. There's a longer sales cycle. So during this longer sales cycle, you have to put your best game, your best foot forward. So a lot of psychological triggers and things come into play. And I've seen that happen a lot more in B2B. Let's start with your point number 1 in your psychological triggers. I think you have 7 points, correct?
Yes, exactly. Kind of before I go through them, you brought up a really great point. And so many marketers I've talked to, they think that the B2B buyer is not emotionally invested. They think that that's a very logical buying decision. And we have these buying committees and we have these long sales cycles. But there's a really interesting study. I encourage your viewers and your listeners to check it out. It was done by Google and CEB Marketing. And what they found was that the B2B buyer is actually more emotionally invested in their providers and vendors than a B2C customer. And the simple reason is there's more on the line. I mean, if I buy the wrong kind of shampoo, big deal, I wasted, $8 or whatever. But if I'm in charge of a $4 million budget and I make the wrong decisions, there's real consequences to that. So yeah. B2B marketers, you got to pay attention to these triggers. So yeah, let's go straight through them. There's 7 that I kind of picked out for today. The first one is faith and aesthetics. The way that things look really matter. We're visual creatures, and I don't know if you ever read the book Blink by Malcolm Gladwell.
Right, of course.
He talks about the adaptive unconscious and how quickly our brains make decisions based on what we're kind of seeing. And it's a survival mechanism. We're always scanning our environments, we're looking at things, and if anything seems kind of off, it's a danger signal, right? And so when it comes to our marketing, the way that things look matter, and any small visual inconsistencies can really kind of chip away at trust. And my favorite example of this is, I'm airing some dirty laundry here, but with Reich, we changed our logo around. But I still, to this day, see some of our teammates using the old logo in the email signature and stuff, and you think, oh, that's not a big deal. It's just a small thing. But you can imagine, our customers getting one email with a new logo, one email with the old one, and not knowing who to trust, and is one, a spoof email. It matters a lot. And so, as marketers, we need to pay attention to every little detail, and people are actually getting more and more discerning just because there's so many attempts to hack us and so many spoof emails going around. People are being much more vigilant about how things look and paying attention to every little detail, because you have to these days. I mean, I get probably 5 or 6, shady emails a day. I don't know about you, maybe even more.
Yeah, no, totally hear you. I mean, as marketers, it's so detail oriented, right? Like, that's what happens. Like what you just said is the logo example. Well, in my business right now, we are a B2B digital marketing services company. So if we have 2 different logos, and if we slip up, the reaction from the client is, if they are not able to match their logo and styling and brand guiding, what will they be able to do for us, right? And it goes across with many businesses. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. Great point. Great point.
And I think too, as marketers, especially if we're like the only marketer on the team, or if we have a very small team, there's a lot of pressure to do things yourself and to maybe make your own images for your blog or your ebook and kind of not waste design's time. But while that might kind of fill the short-term need, if it's not in line with our brand guidelines, we're really putting something out there that doesn't look good and doesn't match our brand. We can really kind of do more harm than good.
Awesome. So I think the focus is put faith in aesthetics, right?
Yes. I mean, that's prioritize that. Use your design team, use your brand guidelines, and every little bit matters. So I know sometimes we put more prioritization on the content itself, but the way it looks matters. So that's a big one.
I mean, especially with the whole Apple, Johnny Ive, Steve Jobs, industrial design change and minimalist design change that we are seeing in the world. The tough thing is less, right? Like nailing it down, and then less is more. And I think you're right. Marketers are still making that mistake. So great. All right. What's your point number 2?
Yeah, number 2 is request justification. And this kind of may seem kind of obvious, but people are more likely to follow through on something if they know exactly why you want them to do it. And, as marketers, we make a lot of asks of people. We ask them for their contact information, their emails. We ask them to, fill out contact forms, to turn in a coupon. We would be so much more successful if we told people exactly what's going to happen, why we need it, when it's going to happen, what they're going to get in return. And so you see a couple of brands that do this really well. I recently encountered an ad from a pretzel company, and they wanted you to download their app and to give your email address. And right on the ad, they say, fill out our app, you'll get a free pretzel within 48 hours or something like that. So it's just a matter of being open and clear with people. I think that people are they're getting sick of marketers just using their information without their consent, or not being clear what's happening with their data when they're sending it. And so I think as marketers, we can really win a lot of trust and participation if we can be very, very clear about what we want people to do and why we want them to do it.
That's great. That's a great point. We've seen this in B2B a lot. I think one is what they can expect. I think that's what you're trying to say. That's what you're saying. And the second is what you want them to do, right? Like we see in the B2B sales cycle, you have these leads that come in, and then you have your SDRs, your BDRs, your AEs. They are calling these leads. And one of the rules is tell them on the other side what you want them to do. If you want to schedule a 30-minute demo of your platform or whatever it is, but have your ask, because you're right. I mean, it's so much as tell me what to do and I will do it or I won't do it, right? It's one of the things. And probably it stems from we've got so much going on these days. And is that why you think that is? That just tell me what to do and I'll do it, kind of like that, you think?
Yeah, I think, people these days appreciate clarity and honesty, and it also too is doing what you say you're going to do and fulfilling that. I think one of the smoothest purchasing cycles I was a part of, it was for some new software. They were very clear about when they were going to contact us, what they needed from us, what they were going to provide, who we would be speaking to, who they would need to speak to from us. I mean, just very clear, very laid out, and then they met those expectations. If they said that they were going to spend, it would be a 10-minute call, it would be a 10-minute call. And they just, throughout that whole journey, they were building trust, building trust, building trust. And so eventually it was a no-brainer to just move forward with them as a provider.
Awesome, awesome. This is a great point number 2. I'm guessing you have point number 3 now.
Point number 3 is actually combining 2 here. There's a social proof and the bandwagon effect. And so, we as humans, we look to other humans for validations for our action, especially if it's not something we're very familiar with. We kind of, maybe you've been new on the job somewhere, or even, in a new school, new college. You observe first, you see what everyone else is doing, and then that kind of sets the tone for what you're going to do. And so it's critically important to use that in our marketing. And so, brands do this every day with like their list of logos on their landing page with all the other companies that are using their product. That's social proof. We see, for example, if we see, AT&T or GM uses that company's product, well, then I think, well, wow, if it's good enough for GM, it's going to be good enough for my company. And then, there's also the bandwagon effect. We're pack animals. We want to be where everyone else is. We don't want to be the odd man out. So if you can demonstrate that you have a very popular product, and you can do it even in subtle ways. I mean, even just on your landing page, having pictures of lots of people using your product or your service, or if you can kind of demonstrate the sheer volume of clients or customers you have, that's bandwagon effect. We want to be part of where the momentum is happening.
Right. And then I think these days everyone has a lot of FOMO going on too, right? And you see a lot, but I think probably I saw on your slide, but it's a classic marketing that's been going on from hundreds and thousands of years, where you are at a retail location and you see 100 people in that store and you want to go in that store. And there is a store right next door to it, and there's no one there. And even though if that's a better store, you're not going to go in. And it's the whole crowd effect, right? I mean, that's what you're referring to.
There's a hotel downtown in San Jose here that they hire people to park their Ferraris and their Lamborghinis out front because they know it's going to attract attention. We want to be where the action is happening. And so they actually hire people to hang out front, well-dressed people and their fancy cars, and it draws a crowd. It's like you said, it's everywhere. It's the same reason why the barista at my corner coffee shop fills the tip jar with coins first, because that makes me think like, wow, people are contributing. This is what I should be doing. So those two triggers kind of work in tandem, social proof and the bandwagon effect. The only time when it's not what you would think, when you want to be a part of the smaller group, is if the small group has more authority or influence, then that's more exclusive, and we want to be a part of the small group.
Nice. So the niche part of it, like the whole old Windows versus Apple kind of thing, right? Great. So social proof, and I would just call it FOMO. So, all right. What is the next one?
Cool. The next one, number 4, is serial positioning. And this one's really interesting. And basically, if we hear information in a sequence, it's easier for us to remember what we hear first and last. And what we hear first, that usually gets committed to our long-term memory. That's called the primacy effect. And that's because if it's a sequence of information, the first thing said usually has some sort of influence or impact over the rest. So we commit that information to our long-term memory, And then things that are said last benefits from what's called the recency effect. And that is stored in our short-term memory. And so you might have heard we can store about 7 things in our short-term memory. So in the middle there, that's really hard for humans to remember. And so the way a marketer, a B2B marketer could use this is to, in whatever you're creating, if it's a press release, if it's an article, think about that things that are first and last are going to be easier for people to remember. So you want to put the most important details first and last. But it applies to other things too, like maybe you're buying advertising slots in like a podcast or a television show. You want your ads to be first or last. You can apply it that way, or even a speaking gig at a conference or something. If you can get first or last, in the middle it's harder.
Right. I hear you. Yeah. No, that's a great point, and I love it how you put it on the content side of it, and probably a great application that you see right off the bat is blog writing, right?
Okay.
I mean, I'm guessing this is what you do is like put the best in the summary at the end, right?
Yeah, it's not natural because we want to be storytellers as marketers, and sometimes we want to carry people through this journey and then have the big reveal at the end. But you know how it is; people have very little time, and so conclusion first. What do you want them to know first, and then you can go back and weave your storytelling. And that doesn't feel natural at first. We want to kind of save the big announcement or whatever it is, but trust me, if you kind of open with what's the point and then get into the details, people actually appreciate that much more.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great point. Yeah, I totally hear you. I think people scan and read less, right? We know that now. So, all right, great point.
Cool. Then we're up to number 5 now.
I believe so.
All right, number 5 is the availability cascade.
Okay.
And basically, the more we hear something, the more we're inclined to believe it. And the brands that do this really, really well, they're able to take the essence of their messaging, and they get very, very particular about the wording, and then they use those exact phrases all over the place, and they don't ever deviate. And they drill these messages into our minds just because they're everywhere.
So say it 6 times and it becomes the truth. That's what you're saying.
Oh, absolutely. And you look at like a brand like Apple they're so clear, it's the best screen on a mobile phone and it's the fastest chip and whatever. And they use these so often, and they use it in their TV spots and their print ads and their web ads. So now anytime a new phone comes out, it's the Samsung Galaxy versus the iPhone, or it's the Windows Phone versus iPhone. They've become the de facto leader.
Right.
And they love that, right? I mean, they want to be what everyone else has to measure up to.
So how would you put it? And just drilling down, it's a great point. So how would you do it? Like, let's say you're creating an app or your sales sheet, data sheet, for example, product sheet. How would you say that over? Like, repeat the words? Like, is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, I think a lot of marketers, they may understand what like their key differentiators are, their hot features, but they may actually use different language every time, different word choice, thinking that doesn't matter, but it matters a lot. And so if you can get your team in alignment around, this is how we describe this feature. This is the exact wording you are to use. And then don't be embarrassed or shy about consistently using it. You will see more impact. Because people, they pay a lot less attention to our marketing than we think they do. And we think like, oh, I can't use that same phrase over and over again. And the truth is, like you said, people scan, they're busy, they're distracted. And so spend time to hammer that message home, and it will start to resonate with people.
Nice. So say it a few times, it becomes the truth.
Yes.
And I think that is like things that people will retain. And
Absolutely.
Then they would know, oh yeah, this company is this, right? So,
yeah, and then if they're ever asked about, wait, what's the fastest phone again? Wait, what have I heard? Oh yeah, Apple fastest phone. Oh yeah, Apple is the fastest phone. It's kind of getting in their minds, and if you're very concise with your wording, it's going to be much easier for them to remember when the time comes. So
Is there any words or things like that you guys say it at Reich? Sorry to put you in a spot.
I think that we're getting much better at being very consistent about, even what we call ourselves,
Yeah.
what we do. We make a collaborative work management platform. We used to say project management a whole lot, or, we're good productivity software. No, we're collaborative work management. What do we do?
Yeah.
That's what we do.
And then you say it a few times, and then that's how people will end up describing you as well.
Yes.
Great point. Love it. What's the next one?
We're burning through this list. I love it.
Love it.
Number 6, it's actually one of the most powerful of all human emotions, and that is curiosity. I think curiosity is kind of underestimated by marketers, but it's extremely powerful. And even B2B brands can use curiosity really effectively, but it's all about balance. So I've talked with a lot of marketers, and some marketers think that to use curiosity in their ad campaigns, they just have to say something unexpected or strange. That's not curiosity. Curiosity is really giving people just enough information that they want to learn more, but not too much that they feel that they have a good understanding already. So it's about balance. And so there's a slide that I use in the presentation about, I saw a blog once that said that the headline was, how your blog is like a 400-pound cupcake. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I guess that's mildly curiosity arousing, but it's not telling me anything. So what they're not doing is they're not achieving that balance. They have to give you something that I know that there's going to be some context and relevance for me. Otherwise, I'll never read that article.
Yeah, and then you're also segmenting it out, right, with a statement like that, because maybe you are a cupcake aficionado, but maybe I'm not, you know what I mean? So I hear you totally.
So, that's, with our subject lines, with our headers, with our talk titles, whatever it is, our slogans, our taglines, you have to give people just enough information to where they realize that it's relevant to them and that it's going to be worth their time to go investigate. But you don't want to go overboard and give away everything, because then, people are busy. They're going to say, oh, I already know what that's about. I don't need to investigate further.
No, that's awesome. I mean, I love the whole space of movie marketing. If you see movies when they're coming out, the teasers are so critical, right?
Oh, yeah.
You see some studios, and I don't know how deep you looked into it, but if you see some studios, they come out with a teaser, and what they do is they show you the whole movie, little clippings. But you saw that whole trailer, so you know what? I don't want to go and watch it, right? Or I may want to. But on the other hand, you just put the best of your teaser in and pulls you in. So I think movies do a great job, the movie marketers. And yeah, you're right. Don't tell the whole story. I also find a lot of our clients, people I've worked with in the past too, you have this thing, right? Like, especially in the SaaS world, every feature is your baby, and you work so hard to get that feature out. So you want to list out every feature of yours on a sales sheet or whatever that marketing or sales collateral is. And that's not the best way to go about it, right? Would you agree?
Absolutely. I've actually seen a rising trend of not even putting screenshots. That might sound kind of counterintuitive, but I've seen it done successfully, or maybe even like stylized graphics of your interface versus the interface itself. There's going to be some people that say, well, that's not going to work, and I think it's all about experimentation. But I do agree with you that you have to leave a little mystery. And you have to leave something to where people are going to be curious to start a trial, to contact your team. You can't just give it all away.
Right. Right. Awesome. Great point. Something that I wholeheartedly agree, and I fight or rather argue with my clients a lot, is this, don't throw the whole thing away.
Yeah.
All right. What's next?
All right, we are at the last one, and this one is labeling. And in my research, this was actually the most surprising to me because, we want to be unique as humans. We want to be different. We want to think that we're unlike anyone else. but people actually enjoy being labeled as long as the label is positive, and they will actually change their behavior to better live up to or exemplify the label. And so they did this really interesting study. They took just a sampling of the public, and they had one group that they labeled politically active. And they found that those people, I mean, this is all just people off the street, those people were 15% more likely to vote. And so as marketers, you can label your customers by the qualities that you want them to have, and they will actually live up to your expectations. And there's some really interesting research done. Customers that were labeled gold or preferred spend more money just because they're labeled that. And that's not even because they spend money, they were labeled gold and preferred. No, just take a random sampling of your customers and give them those labels, and they actually change their behavior. And so, you know, at Reich, we use labels for our clients, our customers as, you know, high performing, industry leading, cutting edge. And we actually find that they are more likely to participate in co-marketing activities with us. They're more likely to try new features. They're more likely to, you know, take advantage of our webinars and stuff. They want to live up to that expectation that we have of them. And so they actually, it's great for those that aren't our customers because they see our customers doing these amazing things. They want to live up to that. But using that label actually helps our existing customers and clients really be the best that they can be and be these industry-leading, cutting-edge companies.
So actually you, with marketing, especially with the psychological trigger that you just mentioned, you can actually train your prospects, your current customers too, to behave the way you want them to behave if done smartly.
Yeah, you know, we see, for example, you know, say you're trying to attract young, hip clients, or maybe you're trying to attract, you know, people with families and people that, you know, people that travel a lot. You know, use that type of language when describing your customers or your users, and you'll start attracting that. And it's amazing the lengths that brands will go to. I just read this example. I thought it was so hilarious. These top quality, top tier fashion houses were sending a bunch of free purses and clothing to some of the stars of the Jersey Shore television show, but not their own clothes. They were sending their competitors' clothes, literally thousands of dollars of free clothes. You know why they were doing it?
No.
Because they didn't want the Jersey Shore cast to wear their garments because they felt that it would be a bad fit. They didn't want to attract a certain type of clientele.
Wow. Gotcha.
So they were mailing these people, you know, thousands of dollars of purses by all of the other brands. So they realize how important it is to be protective over, you know, who your customer is, and they also understand how quickly that can go a direction that you may not want.
All right, that was beautiful. Yeah, that was amazing. I think identification, we're all looking for it in some shape or form that you mentioned, and the trainability, if I may, of your customers. I know like in the B2B, the customer council is so popular, right? Where
Yes.
you bring them in, and then I think people chip in and they're most vocal. And I think we have found, and everyone has found, that when you put your customers, your top customers in a council, you retain them for a longer period of time as well, I think, and that's what you're getting at too, right?
Absolutely.
This is great. So let's run down the 7 points. What is the first one? Sorry.
Faith in aesthetics.
Faith in aesthetics.
The way that things look matter. 2, request justification. Tell people what you want them to do, why you want them to do it, and they're more likely to do it. 3, social proof and the bandwagon effect. Do whatever you can to make your product, your service seem popular, and also try to get people with influence using your product because that will encourage more people to try. 4, serial positioning. The order in which people get information really matters. So put the most important details at the beginning and the end. 5, the availability cascade. The more we hear something, the more likely we are to believe it. So be very particular about those key messages and phrases and ideas. 6, curiosity. Give people just enough information that they want to go find out more, but not too much to where they already feel kind of satiated with what they know. And 7, labeling. Label your customers with the traits you want them to have, and they will live up to your expectations.
This is great, Daniel. Thank you for doing this quick thing. But yeah, I love it. Is there anything that you want to speak and I didn't ask you about, or any thoughts or rants? Go for it.
Yeah, the biggest thing to me is I have a very simple marketing philosophy, and that's just experiment till you find what works, and then keep doing more of that. And so I encourage all marketers to just consistently experiment and keep pushing yourself to try new things, because tactics, they have a half-life. And so we need to constantly be pushing to find those new tactics and strategies that we can use to connect with people. So, have a growth mindset and keep experimenting. And
be curious, right?
Absolutely. That's most important. You're right.
Awesome. This is great, guys. If you want to reach out to Daniel, I know LinkedIn, and
Yes.
Is that the best way to reach out to you, right? Yeah.
LinkedIn is great. I also use Twitter a whole lot. My Twitter handle is @Mr. Codella.
At Mr. Codella, yeah, which is spelled Codella. But this is great. Thank you, Daniel, again, for spending this time enlightening us and sharing your insights. So great. Thank you for doing it, and great to have you. Talk soon.
Thank you so much, Bob.
All right. Thank you, folks. This was great, and I will come back and talk to you more in future episodes on this at bob@digitalsparksmarketing.com. Thank you.